So far in our study, we've been speaking about salvation and grace, with an understanding that the source of this grace is God. Today we want to examine the origins of grace everlasting. The Bible does not give any proofs that God exists. The Bible presupposes that the reader accepts that there's a God. That's why the psalmist says in Psalms 14 verse 1, "The fool hath said in his heart, there's no God." As the saying goes, an atheist does not believe in God, but God does not believe in atheists. This is because essentially everyone believes in the supernatural. If they wish to call this God or some other name, it boils down to the same power. Let's illustrate this using cosmology. This is the scientific study of the universe and its origin and development. In eternal series theory, you keep going back into something to trace its origin. So let's consider for the moment the classic atheist argument from an evolutionary perspective. You've got a human being. The human being has evolved from a primate in this argument. The primates evolved from mammal. The mammal comes from an evolutionary process from an amphibian. The amphibian crawled out of the ocean. In the ocean, it was a fish. The fish came from an amoeba. The amoeba evolved from a multicellular organism. The multicellular organism evolved from a single-celled organism. The single-celled organism came from organic matter that was floating around in the ocean. That organic matter miraculously came from inorganic matter, which itself came from the crust of the earth, which is a collection of matter that came together by gravitational pull around the sun, which is itself made from matter that was floating through the universe and was caught together in one place. And all this matter floating around in the universe came from one point where all the matter had been compressed. And a really, really long time ago, all this matter that was compressed went and started to expand. If you assume that this argument is correct, you still have to ask the question, where did the initial material come from? This takes faith to believe, and faith is an essential component of religion. The atheist says everything came from nothing. This is essentially the same as a Christian or any other theist, except that a Christian states that that beginning from nothing started with God. The Apostle Paul in Hebrews chapter 3 verse 4 says, "Every house is built by some man, but he that built all things is God." The real divide then between atheism and belief in God is not origins. It must be something else. Belief in God presupposes not only a creator, but also that the creator has a will, a purpose for his creation, and an interest in its successful growth and development. As such, belief in God is not just belief in a creator, but also a belief in a moral governor. Belief in God means that there is an absolute moral right and wrong. Here is where atheism was truly born, not in concerns about origins, but in a desire to cast off moral government. Aldous Huxley famously denounced the existence of God in the early 20th century. But in his book, which is called Ends and Means, he admits the reason that he became an atheist. It has nothing to do with evolution. He states, and I quote, "I had motive for not wanting the world to have a meaning. Consequently, assumed that it had none, and was able without any difficulty to find satisfying reasons for this assumption. The philosopher who finds no meaning in the world is not concerned exclusively with a problem in pure metaphysics. He's also concerned to prove that there is no valid reason why he personally should not do as he wants to do, or why his friends should not seize political power and govern in the way that they find most advantageous to themselves. For myself, the philosophy of meaninglessness was essentially an instrument of liberation, sexual and political." Do you understand what Aldous is saying here? Huxley is saying and admitting that he had a motive for his acceptance of atheism. He wanted to be free from moral government. Why shouldn't he and his friends just do what they wanted? Why could his friends not just seize political power? The issue then boils down to the law of God. The first commandment of the moral law states these words, "I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." The law of God is a reflection of his character. It's how we perceive God. It's not a burden or a difficulty. The Apostle James writes that this law has been given as an aid for living. In James 1:25 it says, "But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." The first commandment in the moral law of God is simple. Accept and understand that there is moral government. The exact wording is this: "I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Accept that there is moral government. This is true liberty. When the atheist offers liberty, they're actually deceiving you. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 19, we read that while they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. Because there is a creator, and because the creator cares for his creation, there is moral government. There are things that are right and things that are wrong because the creator has deemed them so. Without God, there is no reason to live a moral life. Today, secular humanists try to argue that you can be good without God. And it is true that there are many secular humanists who live, quote-unquote, good lives. But the question has to be asked, what makes it good or not good? If the standard law of the universe is survival of the fittest, then there's no practical reason that I should not be allowed to do as I please. If I have the power to do something, and I desire to do it, why can I not just do it? What prevents me from killing someone? The secular humanist says because it's bad to kill. But what makes it bad to kill? What makes it bad to steal? What makes it bad to do any action or anything? Survival of the fittest makes none of these things bad. This is why secular humanism can claim to have goodness without God, but support the wholesale abortion slaughter of countless children. Without a moral governor, there is no right and wrong. There is only the dominance of the strong over the weak, and a constant struggle for survival in a harsh and cruel world. But you can have a different experience. The Creator desires the best for you. His grace makes it possible for you to fulfill a great plan in your life, the plan of salvation. Accept the right and reject the wrong as outlined in the moral law, and be freed from the slavery of this world. To know the moral law of God is to know God, because it is a reflection of His character. His everlasting grace is revealed in the power of His everlasting law. And this grace is available to you right now. Accept the first commandment. Accept that there is moral government, and you will experience His grace, grace everlasting.